tonight's demo is we're going to be doing a Noel Christmas card, and I'd like to get overhead and get started on that. Okay, so here is tonight's design, and we're going to be doing a matching envelope with it. All right, and so if you have a stencil that you like that can be used as a pretty border. I just happened to pick this one. There's lots of beautiful stencils out there that have delicate floral designs in them, and that's what I was looking for in this, was just something that I could use kind of some scroll work and some hints of flowers and leaves along the border. So that's what we're going to be working with to do the bordering for this design. And then we're working also with some treasure gold, so adding some gold into the design to give it a pop. And we're changing up the colors of our holly leaves in here. I'm using kind of a grayish teal color with this. So I'm going to share with you how I get that color as well. Okay, so let's get our colors out and we'll get started. Well, actually, before I do that, because I don't want my paint to dry out, I'm going to share with you first how to sketch this lettering. Okay, so these letters are about 2 spread fingers tall, and if you look at this design right here, okay, it's pretty much centered in the card, right? You've got about 2 fingers on either side, and I left a little space down here for a pretty little scroll to embellish that lettering with, and you can decide if you want to do that or not. And then I used a little too flat to do some cute little leaves on there too. So those are a nice little touch when maybe you don't like parts of your liner work that you do. You can plop those little leaves on there and that will hide some boo-boos. Okay, so I'm going to come down into the middle of my card, and I like to do, let's come down real close here so you can see. I like to do curved letters. So they're block, but they're curved. So I'm going to do a sweeping curve for the back of my N, and then I'm going to come out here, and I'll try to make this a little darker so you can see it after I sketch it on. So I'm going to bring this up and out, and we're going to make a little curl right there. Then we're going to come from this point here, and we're going to sweep down, and then we're going to do the remainder of the N from here. We're making that curve in and meeting at the bottom. Okay, so this comes around and then back out. All right, now the O, you're really pretty much figuring out the top and bottom is here and here. All right, and then you're going to sweep down. On either side. All right, and then following that curve, we're going to come over here and we're going to do the back of the E. All right, so that's curved following that. And then the top of the E, I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to match that coming out here, and then that goes up like that. Okay. All right, and then to finish, the L is going to also follow that curve. I'm hoping I'm not getting bigger as I'm going. Might be a little bit, but not too bad. All right, and then we come up and down and curl around. Okay, so that's our lettering. Now, it's a little more to the right than it is to the left. That's okay, I'm not worried about that. All right, so now we can add our stenciling around the border, and I only did the stenciling on the card itself, but you could do a little bit on the border of the envelope. But I like to paint my envelope at the same time that I paint my card. Okay, so I'm going to come back out a little so that you can see a little more. All right, so there's my envelope. I'm going to set my card right there. And then I got my plate. Okay, so let's put out first our color for the border. I'm using camel because this is a cream, almost a yellowish cream colored card stock. All right, so, and you don't need a lot because we're stenciling. So I'm just going to put out a little bit for now. All right. And so I'm going to set this up there actually. All right, so when you're stenciling, you want to have a paper towel handy to tap off. All right, and I'm just going to set that right in my plate for now. And these are this is a number 16 synthetic bristle stencil brush, available on onestroke.com and on Michelle My Belle Designs too. I'm going to come in here and get just enough paint on the tips of the bristles and no more. I'm not pouncing and I'm not pushing paint up in. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to tap off most of it onto paper towel. Okay, this is going to ensure that I don't bleed under my stencil as I'm applying it. Okay, so right here, first thing I want to make sure is I put this pretty little crown piece right in the center. So I'm going to line up my stencil and we're going to start with that. Okay, so we're going to come right in here and you're going to make circles into both directions. And I'm going to lift up to make sure I'm not getting underneath, which I'm not, and I'm happy, but it is still a little strong, so I'm going to tap off a little more. Okay, and then I'm going to come all the way out here with this stencil corner. And all the way over here as well. And I did not go back and get more color on my brush, so I'm working with what I have, and it's going to give it a kind of an antiqued relief look. Maybe just a touch more, because that's not showing up much. Okay, and then when I lift that, it gives me a pretty little border, and it's just subtle. Okay, that's a little dark right there, but that's not too bad. All right, now I'm going to come and get some more, just a little more paint on my brush, tap that off on paper towel every time. Okay, and then I'm going to come here and we're going to use this part right here. So I'm going to line that up on the edge of my card, and I'm going to start up here and come down. I'm just getting a border, so if I get parts of things, that's great. It doesn't have to be the whole design. Okay, there, that looks nice. All right, then we'll do the other side. And you, again, don't have to even do it symmetrically. You can opt to do different parts here and there. I'm going around the end of my L there, so I'm not overlapping that. But if I did, it would be okay too. Okay, so that's looking really good. I'm happy with that. Gonna pick up a little more color. And always tap that off, okay. Now I'm gonna take my same border that I was using right here, and I'm gonna flip it so that I can go, oh, this part didn't pop out. So that I can go across the top. All right, so I'm up here in the corner. Right there, and then we're we're going to take this and do the same thing. So just as far as we need to. So we'll go right about there. Little paint, tap it off, and then apply. Okay. All right, and there you go. So there's your pretty little border. Now, like I said, if you wanted to, you could put it on the envelope too. I'm going to go ahead and do that just for fun. So I'm just going to put it around the corner, little hints of it, up and out. There, so that'll look pretty too. All right, so we'll set that aside, put the brush and clean it. Okay, so next what we want to do is going to go ahead and do all the bordering of the holly leaves. So I'm going to share with you how to get this kind of muted soft colors for our holly leaves. Okay, so I'm putting out some citrus green and some teal. And some white. And finally some medium gray. No, you know what? I don't think I used medium gray with this. I'm pretty sure I used a light gray. So I think it was the classic French gray. I grabbed the wrong one. So it's a pale gray. Okay, yep, that's the right one. So classic French gray is the other color. All right, so we've got our three colors here, and I'm going to get a smaller flat. This is a 10 flat. You could do a 10 flat or an 8 flat, just not the big one. Okay. All right, and so I'm going to double load this brush with my teal and citrus green. I'm going to get all teal on the brush first, and then come side load my citrus, or get all citrus green on my brush first, and then come side load the teal. That's what I was trying to say. All right, then I'm going to dip the whole brush into that gray color and work that into the entire brush. Okay, and then finally, I'm going to come side stroke some white. Okay, so just to restate that, the entire brush, citrus green, then you side load teal, work that in, dip into the classic French gray, work that in, side load some white. Okay. All right, so we're going to come, let's start with the top of our card first, and we'll come down. Sorry about that. There we go. Right here. And so I like to do the simpler holly leaves where you're not going out to a risen point and then pivoting and going. I like to do them a little more relaxed where they're more like a wiggle and stand up. Okay, and I'd side stroke fresh white every time. All right, and so see that pretty color? I really like that. All right, and then you're going to pull. Oh, first thing I forgot to do, boy, I want to do a vine that these can attach to. So just a sweeping little vine. I'm going to dip into white here a little bit and brighten these up. And it's good too to change up the color tone as you're doing this, because then they'll have slightly different looks to them. Oops, sorry. And so then we come here. All right, so they're loose points. White. And then pull your stem from your vine into your leaf. Most of the time doing 2 points before going to the tip, but sometimes I go 3. Okay. And let them overlap, let them touch each other. So I thought that was really pretty color. So dipping all into citrus, grabbing teal on the edge, getting classic French gray, and then side stroking white. I'm on a silicone mat, and you would think it would grip this card, but it's like static or something. Every time I release it, it goes flying across. Oh, because my fan's on, that's why. Okay, and then we'll finish on this row with, we'll just do a leaf right here. Let's get that white on there. Okay, all right, so there's the first border. And you're letting that, background sort of show around it. And you know what I'm going to do is just one more kind of peeping down here, just to kind of break up that straightness of that border. There. And then we'll do one more. Here. There we go. So I've been teaching a lot of new painters lately, and one of the things they struggle with is getting those points to come together when you're stroking. Whether it's a wiggle leaf or a smooth leaf or whatever. And so I want to share just a couple of tips with that as I'm stroking these leaves. So the first thing is you want to make sure that your hand is not getting in the way of your vision, okay? So you need to be able to see the entire stroke from front to back. And the other is move your surface, right? Move the surface until it is comfortable for you to be able to see it. If your hand is in the way when you're trying to stroke, you won't be able to finish that stroke coming together. That's the most corrected thing that I have seen that I have to speak to people about. So when I'm stroking this vine, and then I'm going to add a leaf here, right? And I go there. Now, if I wanted to add the other side of that leaf and I just kept it right where it was and my hand was going here, you can't see where I'm stroking. I can't see where I'm stroking. And so it's important then to take and turn, whether it's this way or whatever is comfortable for you, to get the best result. And you can now see to bring that stroke together and get a nice tip. So don't get in your own way, and you'll be much happier with the results. Okay. I see lots of leaves that people try to do, and their tips are just not coming together, and that's the main reason why. Okay. All right, now we'll come here, go right over that one, bring this around. And if you can bring your tips together with your hand in the way, great. That's wonderful. I am jealous, so I usually have to get my hand out of the way. All right, so now I'm going to bring this out here and a few leaves in that direction. All right, so let's come out here first. Okay, a little of that brighter teal. I want to see that a little more than I am. Remember, when you're stroking these leaves, or any leaf for that matter, that you are half sprung on your brush. You're not up on the chisel. And it's easy to be up on the chisel on these leaves because of all the movement. So you want to be careful. Keep the brush down, half sprung with the flat on the surface, and then come back up to the chisel when you need to. And the one pet peeve I have of seeing how holly leaves get stroked is that they don't have, if you look at holly leaves in nature, they don't start with a flat back, all right? They start at an angle. They actually start back here, and then you come around and go like this. So when you're doing the relaxed ones, start at an angle, all right? Don't have a flat back. Okay, and then we're going to finish up over here. So I'm going to do a little line going up that way, and like that. Get a little more teal and my white. I wish I didn't have to keep turning this because it'd be a lot easier to have it on a turntable. A little more white. Losing my other colors here. And part of the reason that I'm explaining about the being half sprung, being on the flat of the brush, is that if you don't do that, what happens is you get a buildup of paint in the middle of your brush. And I've been seeing that in some leaf stroking lately. Of course, I just put my thumb right in my leaf, so that's not good. We'll put some berries there and fix that later. So make sure that you get that brush down, right? And use the paint on the back of the brush, the flat of the brush, not just the chisel edge, okay? then you won't have your chisel edge split apart because of that ball of paint, and you'll get a much better blend in your stroke. All right, and I'm just going to put, I think, a couple more here. Let's go one more here. Hard to make that choice. Okay. I'm just going to restroke this one. There. All right, so now we have all of our leaves around, and normally I would go ahead and paint the leaves on my envelope too, except I'm using a bigger brush from that because we're putting big ones down here in the corner like this. So I'm going to go ahead, because my paint is out, I'm going to go ahead and do that, but I'm going to load a 16 flat for that. So let's set this aside and come to our envelope. And we're going to load with, whoops, I need to dampen that first. We're going to load with the citrus, right, like I showed you before, and then side stroke the teal, and then dip into the classic French gray, kind of graze it down a little, and then side load some white. Okay. All right, so here we're just going to do a little standard cluster of 3 in the corner. All right, so here we're going to push, stroke, tip. Okay. A little white, and bring it to the chisel. Okay. Then we'll do the bottom one. And then we'll have the one in the middle. So the one in the middle, I need to make sure I do good fresh white on that so that it goes over and shows up against the others. There we go. All right, so now we have our pretty little leaves in the corner. I'm going to go ahead and clean that brush, and we're ready to work on our lettering on our card. So I'm going to put out some berry wine. Okay. And some treasure gold. A little more. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to take, to do lettering, you need to master or work on mastering the use of your script liner. Okay. And you need to use one that has a good point on the tip. And sometimes our purple handled ones don't always have that tip point, like our green handled one stroke brushes do. So switching to a green handled one, blending with water, getting inky berry wine. And lately my berry wine coming out of the bottle is very thick, so needing a little more water. There we go. Okay. You give it a twist coming out. All right. And now we come over here. So I'm going to keep working from that puddle. And I got a little drip right there I don't want. Okay. So working on this, let's come down, get as close as I can. And what you're going to do is you're going to touch on the tip. You try to do downward strokes as much as possible. So you start at the top, you touch on the tip, and you lay the brush about halfway down and then release, standing up to the tip of the brush. All right, and then here we're going to come around and stand up. Now to do this curl, you could try to do it while you're all standing, you know, up on the chisel doing a curlicue, or on the tip I should say, during doing a curlicue, but it's a lot easier if you break it up. So if you pull down and then come back out here, touch, stand up and pull down, and then bring the two together, you'll get a much nicer curl. It's a hit or miss sometimes when you're trying to do it all in one with the tip of the brush. So if you do it that way, it's almost a guarantee. All right, so everything is downward strokes as much as possible. So a touch here and lay it down about half on the surface of the brush, and then stand it up to the tip when you get to the bottom. Same thing on the other side, and stand it up. All right, and then here. And then the L. Okay, so turn your surface so it's a downward stroke. Start at the back, come around, and stand up on the curve. All right, then you're going to come, let's do it this way. You're going to come here, stand it up, then there, and bring it together, okay? So question, is there a liner brush that has just one bristle? My lines always get so fat with the liner. That usually happens if you are not getting it wet enough. So you need it to get it inkier so that your brush is not carrying too much paint in it and you have a fine chiseled point on the end, okay? If you don't get to that point, then you need to keep adding water until you do. All right, so now I'm gonna, before I move on, let's get our envelope here, and I shouldn't have cleaned my brush yet. But I'm just going to do a few little pretty scroll strokes here. Trying to do this while holding it so I don't have to move my card. Push and stand up as you lift. So lay it down and stand up as you lift. It'll give you a pretty little curve. So lay it down, stand it up. And then here, lay it down, stand it up. There we go. Okay. All right, now I can clean that, and we will come into our Treasure Gold. Now, water in Treasure Gold, you don't need as much because it's a little bit thinner than a regular multi-surface paint. So some, but not a lot. Okay. Just twist it till you get to that tip on your brush, Get rid of any drips. And so what I like to do with this is go along the left side and the bottoms of each letter. See, you don't even really want much, if any water. I would say no water, because it really gets thin. And then it doesn't look as pretty. Okay, so it's just a matter of, you've got to work with this brush, get comfortable with releasing and applying pressure, and learning how the brush reacts to that pressure. So work on your alphabet, work on customizing lettering. If you're doing art shows, customers love something that is customized with their family name or date, special anniversary or birth date. Now on glass, that's a different story. And that's what I used to do. And I would not do custom or personalization, I should say. Okay. All right, now and I just realized that I didn't do my pretty little scroll in the bottom, so coming back to my berry wine. And the scroll just kind of fills in some of the extra space. So I'm going to start with my curl here, downward, come up, down, and stand up. And I'm going to turn, and we'll do this part and join up with that. Put this end on here. And then add some accent lines here and here. All right, then we'll come back to our gold. And do the same thing on this, so come around. That. In here, under there. Okay, I think that's all of it. All right, so then with the gold on my envelope, come back and do some of those accent lines there. So lay it down, stand it up. There we go. All right, now to do these little berries on the card, I'm using a Q-tip, and I need some apple red out as well. Okay, so I'm going to dip my Q-tip into some berry wine first, and we're going to come down here and we're going to dot okay, just a few down here, just a few. So I'm just going to go around and do little groupings. And I really like these small little berries. So much more so than with the bigger one that we'll use for the envelope. You just have to be careful when you're working with a Q-tip because it starts to get a little worn on the end as you're tapping it out. All right, now I'm going to dip into some apple red, and here and there I'm just going to add a little bit of a bright berry in between. But light touch with these. All right, and then once I get these done, I finish by adding just a few touches of gold. So I flip the Q-tip around and dip into some gold. All right, and I go right over some of those berries that I just did. Just a few. And it sparkles them up. You could also do glitter if you prefer that over the metallic gold, but I like this because later I'm going to add some gold accents to the leaves too, and it all ties together with the lettering and the color palette for the card. Okay, now if you take that same 10 flat and some floating medium, all right, so load floating medium and side load some of the gold. And all I did was I came along on one side of most, if not all, of the leaves and carefully added a little gold accent to each one. Like some of these get kind of buried in the berries, so you have to take care with those. Okay, and then on the envelope too, on these bigger leaves. Okay, and then I also came in on the stems. All right, now to finish this up, I came in with a 2 flat, and I got a mix of citrus and teal. Just to get a little bit darker color. And on each of the letters, all right, I came down, and you have to see this because it's a very small stroke. Now remember, this is a small brush. It does not require hardly any pressure to create the leaf. You just touch it down and lift it up. All right, so you touch and lift, touch and lift. And I just thought this was a really cute accent on the letters, especially if you had any parts that maybe you weren't thrilled with. See, I'm even getting a little heavy-handed with these. So you just let the brush do the work. It's push and lift, push and lift. And with everything on here now, I have to be very careful. All right. And I also came down on the scroll. So maybe right here. A little citrus right there. Okay. And then on the envelope, just here in where everything comes together. Little clusters. Okay. All right, now to finish this off on the envelope, I loaded my 1/4 inch dauber with berry wine. And then right in the center, I got a tiny bit of white right in the center, and push that down and blended it. So then I came in here and push and twist. Now I'm getting too big. There we go. All right. Okay, and then to finish up with those, I wiped that off on paper towel, got a touch of gold on that sponge, and did a few in gold. And you come in with your inky script liner. And sign the card somewhere. Usually on the back is better, but I'll just go ahead maybe right here. There we go. So that is our matching, let's do it this way, our matching Noel greeting card and envelope, all ready to send out to someone you love. I hope you enjoyed that demonstration. I hope you learned a lot about how to do those leaves and lettering and all the other things that I shared with you that were fun.